This is WFYI News Now. It's February 26th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, a state house bill that would allow utilities building power plants to bypass zoning laws. The fate of several major Indiana election reforms in the ongoing legislative session. And a church headquartered in Indianapolis joins a lawsuit against the Trump administration's immigration enforcement policy.
It's sad that it would take this action to formally guarantee those rights, but that's really what we're standing on, and we want to be sure that whatever the court hands down allows us to be able to guarantee those rights.
Those stories coming up, but first. Senate lawmakers advanced a bill aimed at helping unemployed Hoosiers experiencing trouble getting back into the workforce. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Tamoria Cunningham reports the bill would open the door for the state to launch a new certification program for high-demand jobs.
The bill allows the Indiana Department of Workforce Development to create a skills training pilot program available for eligible Hoosiers on the state's unemployment insurance program. Those who will be eligible for the training program include people who are unlikely to find work without more training and people who are more likely to complete the training with a weekly incentive. Those determinations would be made by DWD. Liz Brown, one of the bill's authors, says this program could help increase wages for those who finish the skills program.
We are trying to get our workforce up to the next level jobs.
The program could also add to an individual's unemployment benefits for each week they are eligible for unemployment benefits and make satisfactory progress towards an approved training program. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Tamoria Cunningham.
The bill now heads to the House. Utilities that want to build a new power plant on the site of an old one or a former coal mine could bypass local zoning and land use laws under a state Senate bill that passed last week. But as Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports, there's a caveat. It can't be a wind or solar farm.
Communities that host coal plants set to retire are likely to lose jobs and tax revenue. Building a new plant in the same spot could help offset that loss and maybe save utility customers money. The author of the bill modeled it after Indiana-Michigan Power's ordinance with Spencer County to locate a small modular nuclear reactor on the site of its Rockport coal plant. But some environmental groups say if those parties were able to come to an agreement, do we really need this bill? Delaney Barber-Kwan is with Indiana Conservation Voters.
We do have some concerns about the approach to restricting local control to streamline the process.
The bill specifically exempts wind and solar farms from bypassing local zoning laws. For years, renewable energy companies have said the patchwork of local ordinances has made it difficult for them to build in Indiana. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
That bill now moves to the House for consideration. Several major Indiana election reforms advanced by the Senate Elections Committee this session either failed to get approval by the full Senate or were significantly scaled back. Those included bills to cut the state's early in-person voting days in half, force primary voters to register with political parties, and move all city and town elections to presidential election years. Both the early voting days reduction and closed political primary legislation did not come up for a vote on the Senate floor before the session's first half deadline. They would have faced a difficult road in the House, where Speaker Todd Houston says he doesn't see the need for changes.
I think our election laws have been good. I think our election laws have been well regarded nationally. We seem to run good, efficient elections.
The Senate did send some significant election reforms to the House, including a bill forcing school board races to become partisan. But Senate President Pro Tem Roderick Bray says he knows that measure will be a challenging one in the opposite chamber.
But these are some things that people think are important, and we debate them and decide whether they can move forward.
The House had its own partisan school boards bill, which it did not bring up for a vote on the floor. And for our final story today, dozens of religious groups recently filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration's immigration enforcement policy, allowing for arrests to be made in places of worship. WFYI's Samantha Horton reports one church headquartered in Indianapolis is a part of the lawsuit.
The Trump administration's actions to increase deporting people in the U.S. without legal status has left a chilling effect in communities, including places of worship. Reverend Terry Hord Owens is a general minister and president of Indianapolis-based Christian Church Disciples of Christ and has heard from congregations experiencing decreased attendance to church in response to the administration's immigration policies. She says the church joined the lawsuit to fight for the protection of its congregations.
It's sad that it would take this action to formally guarantee those rights, but that's really what we're standing on, and we want to be sure that whatever the court hands down allows us to be able to guarantee those rights.
The Trump administration has yet to file a response to the lawsuit. I'm Samantha Horton.
That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin and Zach Bundy, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.